Welcome to Story Edit Now. This is this is a new specialty stream where I'm editing your stories live. So if you want feedback on your story, whether you're watching live or on the replay, submit now. I'm going to take these story excerpts through either a developmental, a line edit, or a copy edit. We'll go into those in just a moment. But so far, after 750 streams and almost 20 fully edited novels last year, I want to help you with improving your self-editing process. And if you don't know who I am, I'm Kauffman. I'm a daily writing streamer, fantasy enthusiast, and dragon lover. So if all comes to worst and you don't know how to fix your novel, just put a dragon on it. We know that'll save it. All right, my friends. So let's get into it. So how do you submit? First off, if you want to submit, the submission link is down in the YouTube description down below. And super simple. All you do is you just answer a few questions. I need to have an understanding of what type of story you're submitting, the blurb, what type of editing you're looking for, because sometimes with writers, there can be a mismatch in terms of the type of editing they think they need and the type of editing it actually needs. My goal is to better help you understand what type of editing your stories need. So submission, super simple. And then this is how I'm going to do this editing live stream. So instead of doing a randomized approach beforehand, everybody who submits a submission, everybody who turns in a submission is going to be eligible for the same exact chance to have their story edited. What that means is if you submit, you will be entered into our Wheel of Right Now. Before every single story I edit today, we're going to spin the wheel and see just what story we should edit next. It looks like we got a couple stories queued up on deck, and you still have a chance. So whether you've already submitted or you're just hopping onto the stream and you want to submit now, now's your chance. Submit now. All right, beautiful. And with that being said, so last time I tried to find that balance between doing live edits and also listening to you, the chat, because I want to hear your feedback. I'm curious to see how do you go about editing. So I highly encourage you, if there's a sentence, if there's a part where like, hey, that could be better, I would love your insight. I want to see what's on your mind, whether you think it could be improved or whether there's a part of your story that you're like, not quite the vibe. What I'm going to do so that way I can better structure this, I'm going to split up the time in terms of my hyper-focused time on editing it, and then I will spend time looking at the comments. So we're going to spend the first half of every session. I will start off with the reading. I will then go through the editing myself, and then I'll turn to you, the community, and see just what your thoughts are on some of these editing pieces. So that way I don't get too sidetracked on some of these stories. All right, so let's do it. Now, all right, let's do it. So as we can see, I have some stories lined up. And before we hop into the stories themselves, let's do a quick review. What are the three different types of editing? What are the three different types of editing? Of course, there's a couple other variations, but let's look at it. So I've listed the different types of editing on my website. We'll just do a really quick review so we can all be on the same page here. The first type of editing we have, let's make sure you guys can see that. We don't need that. There we go. All right, so the first type of editing we have is developmental editing. I like to say that it's a big picture analysis of a manuscript that focuses on story structure, plot progression, character development, world building, pacing, and overall readability. In layman's terms, this is focused on your characters and your story. Do your characters feel believable? Does your story make sense in terms of the plot? And how is the pacing? Does it feel readable? Developmental editing is focused on story mechanics. And then when we go to line editing Line editing is more a sentence by sentence level edit that focuses on clarity, flow, style, and readability. Now, once again, we have readability again. The interesting thing with edits is some parts of the different types of edits can overlap at times. The difference with line edits is you're going to see a greater focus on style. You're going to see a greater focus on improving the prose, on either fixing the prose or improving it. Now, with copy editing, copy editing is a technical sentence level edit that ensures grammar, punctuation, spelling, and consistency are flawless. Copy editing, we like to think of copy editing as the time to focus on fixing the grammar, fixing all that punctuation, fixing all the inconsistencies, the typos, the things that that could pull a reader out. The copy editing is usually the type of editing that will come last. So when we think about the three types, we want to think about developmental editing. We're going to fix the characters first. Line editing, we're going to fix the style second. Copy editing, we're going to fix the grammar last. And then, of course, after that, we also have a proofread, which is essentially like, I like to think of the proofread as like a watered down version of a copy edit. Essentially, it's somebody's going through the manuscript and making sure that they can catch any typos and consistencies. Any editor is going to have some margin for error, even with the big publishing houses. A proofread is basically meant to catch those typos and inconsistencies across your hundreds of thousands of words that you have throughout your novel. And it's always recommended that a proofread is done, whether through yourself or through someone else. I know a lot of the writing platforms have great options for proofreading as well. So, but we're not going to focus too much on proofreading. And my guess with the submissions is we're probably not going to be focused too much on copy editing. My gut tells me that the majority of the submissions are probably looking for developmental editing or line editing. So let's see what we got and let's hop into it. All right. All right, so I have everyone's favorite wheel of WriteNow. Let me make sure, see if I got any other submissions. Once again, submit now, link down in the YouTube description down below. Perfect, and it looks like we got 3-6. We have 7 submissions for today. So let's see just what we see. We're going to leave it up to chance. We're going to leave it up to the fates and see just what the wheel of WriteNow, I was like, we're going to see just what the wheel of WriteNow has in store for us. Ooh, I like that I have the full screen view. All right, so are you ready? I'm ready. Let's see what type of, let's see who's going to be chosen for our first story edit. Without further ado, drum roll please. All right, so it looks like our first one is going to be Frontier. Excellent. All right, Frontier. Bear with me just one moment while we get your story prepped, and we are going to pull up your story. All right, so Frontier. It looks like we have a dark fantasy. Ooh, this, wow, that's right up my alley. Maybe the Wheel of WriteNow knows me so well. We're starting off with my favorite genre over here. All right, so let's see what we got for Dark Frontier. All right. So it looks like we got here, and then let me check what we got for Frontiers. And it looks like our story is titled A Dragon's Favorite Hero, and of course, dark fantasy. All right, there we go. So it looks like we have a Dragon's Favorite Hero, and it is a dark fantasy. Once again, I haven't read any of these stories, so we're going to be hopping. This is, once again, it's a cold edit, so I have no clue what to expect. Let's see what Frontier asked. Let me pull up their submission. I want to say Frontiers is that one. Make sure I go to the right one. All right, and let's see what we got here. So for Frontiers, Dragon's favorite hero. Let's see what the blurb of the story is about. Let's see. A dragon's greatest fear is going its whole life without a challenge. One of their strongest wants a knight worthy of his attention, and trauma makes the best heroes. It looks like it's a novel, and they're unsure what type of edit that it needs. Beautiful. So Frontier, we're going to help you figure out what type of edit your story needs, and we're going to edit the, I'm assuming it's probably the first couple pages. Has this gone through an alpha or beta read? Okay, so it hasn't gone through the alpha beta read, which means it hasn't been looked at by any readers. My guess is it's probably going to need a developmental edit. That's what my gut is telling me. But let's see. Okay, so perfect. And let's go back here. All right. So when we think about the feedback loop, real quick before we hop into it, just a note, usually we highly recommend that your story gets feedback from alpha beta readers first before you send it to an editor. Now, in terms of this stream, we're going to still treat it the same way, but the reason is an alpha or beta reader is going to help you figure out some of the bigger story problems, so that way by the time you send it to an editor, you're going to save money. You don't want to send an editor a story that has all these glaring story problems because it's just going to cost you more money. The editor is going to charge you more because there's going to be more a higher word count and more things that's going to need to be fixed, and it's going to take them twice as long to go through the story. So I wanted to start off with that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read the first couple of pages, and we're going to see what we're going to see. I'm going to leave up Grammarly for now. Grammarly generally tends to be more helpful with grammar, with fixing grammar, adding commas and such. I would say as a tool, Grammarly is helpful about 50% of the time for me. Okay. Draconics don't run when they chase you. So what we'll do, I'm going to read through we'll go like the first couple pages. I just need to get a sense of how the story is at, and then we'll take it through an edit. Draconics don't run when they chase you. The rain poured and ticked against the stone of the city streets. Thunder boomed above. The woman's desperate breaths were drowned out by ambient noise of the night, footsteps barely distinguishable from the storm around. The Dragonborn didn't rush. He could follow the woman anywhere, the abundant trail of blood mixed with the water, leaving a red stripe along the puddles as the wound drained her strength. The trench coat hovered just above the filthy streets. The leather boots splashed the water on the bricks. After a pursuit that to the Dragonborn felt more like a chore, the woman collapsed, still tightly clutching the unconscious newborn in her arms, turning back to see her pursuer calmly making his way up to her, the oversized cleaver dangling at his side. "You fucking lizard," she groaned, reaching for her pocket, grabbing a dagger and shakily pointing at him, ignoring the gaping cut on her side. A blink. Her hand was severed from the arm in a single blink's worth of time. The distant Dragonborn, now returning his cleaver to an idle stance after slashing her right hand off and allowing her to scream. While she bent in agony, clutching the child, he merely stared with his trench coat now behind. The woman stared at the Dragonborn. A massive tattoo or mark of sorts covered almost half his body, its edges curving and twisting, as if to represent a black flame. The eyes were shining, a warm golden color. The breath was calm, the baggy pants were soaked in rain and in her blood. "Murder!" she cried, her voice stopped by a sudden, zipping shriek across the air, as the Draconic made a second slash with his weapon, slicing both her and the newborn in half at a slight angle, forehead to hip. Rainfall didn't stop. Okay, so I can already tell it definitely needs some line editing for sure. Developmental editing, my guess is probably since it hasn't gone through an alpha or beta read. If I pull back for a second and I ask myself, do I understand what's going on? I do, for the most part. But I do feel like I'm clear on the action. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this through a cross between a developmental and a line edit. And if there's any like major glaring, what's the word? Like grammar, like any consistent grammar things that are just really easy to catch. Sometimes I'll touch upon it, but I won't focus too much time on the grammar because we got to make sure that the story makes sense and that the style is clear enough. Because what's going to happen is we don't want to spend all this time fixing grammar problems if the story or the characters are going to get changed. So let's make sure y'all can see this. All right. We'll go there. I think that's good. Okay, so let's say I'm going to go through this. So draconics don't run when they chase you. Draconics don't run when they chase you. As a first line, once again, our first couple pages, we always want them to be strong. And I want to see how long. There's only 3 pages, so it wasn't too crazy. Draconics don't run when they chase you. As a reader, I don't know what a draconic is, but I think that's part of the intrigue. So I'm actually pretty good with this first line. Draconics don't run when they chase you. Interesting. Okay. The rain poured and ticked against the stone of the city streets. And of course, like we could say, like, what's that? That's not going to be that one. Of course, we want all the paragraphs to be indented over, but I'm not going to worry about that because that's more a Google formatting thing. That's also a formatting thing that would happen in a copy edit. If I was doing a copy edit, I would be adjusting things like this, making sure the first sentence is not indented, and be placing a greater focus on the structure, the formatting, and the grammar side of it. For now, we're not going to worry about that because we need to make sure the story and the style is working first off. The rain poured and ticked against the stone of the city streets. Thunder boomed above. Now, right here, I asked myself, thunder boomed above. Technically, we know where thunder's coming from. So, like, why do we need to say it's coming from above? Is that really necessary? So, the question I asked myself, okay, let's say this is an obvious statement. But is it a style choice, right? Sometimes we want to use words and language in a way that stylistically supports the text. Thunder boomed above. I think we can cut down this wordiness and go thunder roared. Actually, let's make sure. So usually it will go into editing the document. Let's go suggesting thunder boomed. Now, usually when I edit, actually, maybe I'll change. I love using my Word document way more for editing. Google Docs is fine, but I just love, I'm going to change it over. Oh, I love it. So much better. So much better. Okay. Google Docs is like obviously the same company. Google Docs is like the base version of, is like the basic version of Microsoft Word. Okay. Woo, so much better. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to double space this. This is more for myself, so I can look at each of the sentences. And the rain poured and ticked. I am also going to go into where my track changes. So this is track changes is something very common that all editors use. Track changes is that's like an industry standard for editors. Essentially, whenever I make changes, it'll show up in red. If I make comments, it will show up on the side here. Love doing that. I think this is going to be a little stronger for the live stream because I think it just shows up. It just looks better for your guys' benefit. All right. So let's go. The rain poured and ticked against the stone of the city streets. Thunder boomed. So they basically want to show that we're in the middle of a rainstorm. Thunder boomed above. Thunder boomed in the thunder boomed up. Thunder. The rain poured and ticked against the stone of the city streets. Thunder boomed. Thunder roared in the distance. That's kind of changing. That changes the context a little bit because they want it here. Thunder roared in the distance. I think roared sounds a little bit better. Thunder roared. I think this actually could be an opportunity as well to, you could probably do some type of simile right here or a metaphor. So let's keep their intent here. We'll just go thunder boomed because we already know where thunder boomed. I feel like we can probably give, because we're about to transition to the footsteps. The rain poured and ticked against the stone of the city streets. Thunder boomed. And I'm like, wait, I want to make sure I get the difference between thunder and lightning right. Thunder versus lightning. I don't know why I always mix up thunder and lightning. All right, so thunder is the sound it creates. Guys, anytime there's something I'm uncertain about, even if it's like a 5% uncertainty as the editor, I need to make sure that I double check. So thunder and lightning are not the same. Lightning is the electrical discharge. So lightning is what we see, but thunder is the sound. All right, so they're basically the sound. Thunder boomed. Thunder boomed. I almost want to go thunder boomed. Yes. So let's go there. Thunder boomed. I feel like this should be a like. I feel like thunder boomed. Because we have an action scene. Thunder boomed. Wrapping the world. Wrapping the thunder boomed. Wrapping the quiet city in. I'm gonna come back to that. I think I can think of something better. It's like what I'm going back and forth is because I know there's a style suggest for this. It just feels like I could add more, but I'll come back to that. The woman's desperate breaths were drowned out by ambient noise of the night. Footsteps barely distinguishable from the storm around. So we don't know who the woman is. The would only be used if the woman's already been set up, since she is the subject of her sentence. So we're going to go a woman. A woman's desperate breaths were drowned out by ambient noise of the night. Footsteps barely distinguishable from the storm around. A woman's desperate breaths were drowned out by ambient noise. By ambient noise of the night. A woman's desperate breaths were drowned out by the ambient noise of the night. A woman's desperate breaths were drowned out by the ambient noise of the night. So something I always try to do as an editor is I always try to minimize the usage of the same words within the same sentence and or the same paragraph if possible. A woman's desperate breaths were drowned out by the ambient noise of the night. Okay, so I think a woman's desperate breaths were drowned out by the booming of thunder. By thunder's roar. A woman's desperate breaths were drowned out by a cacophony of thunderous might. Okay, we'll make this shorter. A woman's desperate breaths were drowned out by by a roar of thunderous fury. By a roar of thunderous fury. I feel like we changed it too much. Just go by thunder's roar. No, it's your lightning. All right, and we're drowned out by the thunder's roar. All right, so what we're doing, we're going to do that. Her footsteps were barely distinguishable from her footsteps were barely distinguishable from the storm. Let's go from the storm's fury. All right, so let me make sure that makes sense. So the rain poured and ticked against the stone of the city streets. Lightning flashed across the night sky. A woman's desperate breaths were drowned out by the thunder's roar. A woman's desperate breaths were drowned out by the thunder's roar. If we want to make it simple, a woman's desperate breaths were drowned out by thunder. By the thunder's roar. We could make this shorter. By a thunderous roar. We're drowned out by a thunderous roar. Ooh, I like that. A woman's desperate breaths were drowned out by a thunderous roar. Her footsteps were barely distinguishable from the storm's fury. Now, her footsteps were barely distinguishable. So distinguishable, since we're moving that to sound, her footsteps were barely audible. Her footsteps were barely audible from the storm's fury. Is she running? So after pursuit, so the woman she's running. Her footsteps were barely audible. Within. Let's go within. Her footsteps were barely audible within the storm's fury. Within the storm. Her footsteps were barely audible within the storm. So we're setting up city. Then we're setting up the lightning. We're giving lightning and thunder. A woman's desperate breaths were drowned out by a thunderous roar. Her footsteps were barely audible within the storm. All right. The Dragonborn didn't run. I think I like this better. I mean, kind of go back and forth. I feel like the last bit's really unnecessary since we had kind of changed it from its original sentence. So we're barely audible within the storm. Kind of mixed on that part. The Dragonborn didn't rush. So he could follow the woman. So essentially, setting up the woman was basically the setting. The Dragonborn didn't rush. He could follow the woman anywhere. So the Dragonborn is our POV character. Let's go. Her footsteps were barely audible within the storm, within the storm's fury. Let's go that. The Dragonborn didn't rush. He could follow the woman anywhere. So this is our POV, not the woman. He could follow the woman anywhere. The abundant trail of blood mixed with the water, leaving a red stripe along the puddles as the wound drained her strength. So this is an example, a little bit of a run-on sentence. He could follow the woman anywhere. The abundant trail of blood mixed with the water. Leaving a red stripe along the puddles as the wound drained her strength. So we have too many. We just have too much going on in one sentence is the problem. So I think as I'm looking at this, so this opening line, I would say here, I think if I leave a comment, I would say this leads me to believe the woman is the POV, but it sounds like the Dragonborn is the POV. Recommend adjusting. Because starting from here, I had assumed that the woman was the POV, but clearly it's the Dragonborn. The Dragonborn didn't rush. He could follow the woman anywhere. The abundant trail of blood mixed with the water, leaving a red stripe along the puddles as the wind drained her strength. So we have a case of a little bit of head hopping. Um, he could follow the woman anywhere. The abundant trail of blood mixed with the water, leaving a red stripe along the puddles. Okay. So this should be its own sentence because this doesn't really do too much to support that this first sentence. This will be stronger here so we don't lose the end of it. The abundant trail of blood mixed with the water. The abundant trail of blood mixed with water. I can shorten this. The abundant trail of bloodied pools of water. The abundant trail of bloodied pools of water left a red stripe along the puddles. Left stripes along the ground. And because since this is his POV, which we don't need the abundant trail of bloodied pools of water. Yeah, we don't need that comma anymore. The abundant trail of bloodied pools of water left red stripes along the ground. Her strength must be waning. Her strength must be waning. But it does seem that our POV is very self-sure. He's not rushing, which tells me that he probably wants a stronger. He probably knows for certain her strength was, so must be, let's go was. Her strength was waning. The trench coat hovered just above the filthy streets. The leather boots splashed the water on the bricks. I'm assuming this is her. The trench coat hovered just above the filthy streets. The leather boots splashed the water on the bricks. So yeah, I'm assuming this is her since we had set up the paragraph. So because I see here, so we're basically trying to set up her description. We're also trying to add more to the setting, and then we're also trying to add the leather boots splash the water on the bricks. So we're trying to add the bricks, filthy streets. The problem that we're facing is we're trying to add a lot of different elements to this, but it's unnecessary because we've already set up the water bit here, and we've already set up here. We do want a description, I think, which is important. Let's go her trench coat. Her trench coat flapped behind her as she ran through the filthy streets. Her trench coat flapped behind her. Her trench coat flapped behind her as she fled through the filthy streets. And then we had already done a footstep thing, so it's like it doesn't really matter that her foot, because we've already done that. Does it? I just don't think leather boots is that important. I mean, it could be. It could be. Her trench coat flapped behind her as she fled through the filthy streets. Her leather boots echoing against the bricks. Her leather boots. No, it just doesn't need it. It's just so unnecessary. So what I would do here, if I would just put a note here, remove the leave a comment. All right. Leather boots unnecessary, since it's like if Kauffman can spell unnecessary, right? I was like, oh my goodness. I want to say it's one two N's, one C, two S's, two N's. I was like, I knew there was that would bug me so much. Leather boots unnecessary since we've already mentioned her footsteps. Her trench coat flapped behind her as she fled through the filthy streets. After a pursuit that to the Dragonborn felt more like the woman collapsed. All right. So even as we've gone through the first couple, paragraphs, so I can already tell what I'm doing right now is I'm kind of taking it through a bit of a line edit, but what the story really needs is definitely a developmental edit. So something that I would like to do, especially when I can tell that the story has developmental opportunities, is sometimes I'll take the first couple pages through a line edit because I want the writer to see things that they can improve on. I want them to see different styles and ways to tackle some of these sentences and just clear it up. Even here, so if I was to give them like feedback, I would say, all right, let's clarify who our POV character is. And we want to clarify it in a paragraph by paragraph state. Now, usually I would leave this in like a side note, but I'll just put it here. Make sure to pay attention to who our POV character is. Our POV character is unable to tell how other characters feel or think unless it is something physically observable or if they have some type of ability. All right. I'd probably give them a little bit more on POV and head hopping, but I'm not going to get too into that. So instead of taking the rest of this through a line edit, what we'll do, I would just want to give you guys an example of what I would take through like the first couple pages, even though I do know that this needs a developmental edit. If I took the whole manuscript through a line edit and then they had to change half the story, that would be a disservice to them. I like to use my editing as a practice, so that way they can see their mistakes and then they can learn from them. All right. Now, if I was going to go the rest of this, after a pursuit that to the Dragonborn felt more like a chore, the woman collapsed, still tightly clutching the unconscious newborn in her arms. Turning back to see her pursuer, calmly making his way up to her, the oversized cleaver dangling at his side. So, and I can also tell that the author, so we have a tendency to do run-on sentences. So think about it like this. So we have after pursuit that to the Dragonborn felt more like a chore. We have an independent clause, and when collapsed, still clutching the unconscious newborn, turning back to see her pursuer, calmly making his way up to her, the oversized cleaver dangling at his side. So we have a descriptor, we have a dependent clause, we have two independent, so we have two descriptors, three dependent clauses, and an independent clause. This sentence should be split up into like 2 or 3 sentences. So instead of fixing it, what I'm going to do is consider, let's see what's the best way. Consider separating your sentences into shorter sentences. Currently, currently you have a tendency to do run-on sentences, which is a very, very, very common. This is actually a very common thing. Ask yourself, yeah. You fucking lizard, she groaned. Now, of course, this is a grammar thing here, but we always want to make sure that with dialogue, we're using a comma and then a speech tag correctly. You fucking lizard, she groaned, reaching for her pocket, grabbing a dagger, and shakily pointing at him, ignoring the gaping cut on her side. I also want to put here, because I always like to put things that I love. Well, let me give another comment here. I loved this opening line. So I always like to make sure that I add things that are working well, because I think that's very important. You fucking lizard, she groaned, reaching for her pocket, grabbing a dagger, and shakily pointing at him, ignoring the gaping cut on her side. This is a little bit more run on, but I think this still can work. Reaching for her pocket, grabbing a dagger, and shakily pointing at him, ignoring the gaping cut on her side. You fucking lizard, she groaned. I think if I were to fix this, I would just make this two separate. Reaching for her pocket, she grabbed the dagger. Reaching for her pocket, she grabbed a dagger, and shakily pointing at him. Reaching for her pocket. Let's go the woman. All right, we call her the woman, right? Reaching for the pocket, the woman grabbed a dagger. Shakily pointing at him. While ignoring the gaping cut on her side. A blink. A blink. I'm not quite sure. So like the dragon blinks. Yeah, her hand was severed from the arm in a single blink's worth of time. I get why, because we're trying to create a beat here. In the blink of an eye. Now, of course, this is a fragment, but it's intentional style choice. There's times to use fragments and there's times not to use fragments. So I think this is fine to go as a fragment because it's supposed to be a transition. Her hand was severed from the arm. And we've already done that transition, so we just don't need it. Her hand was severed from the arm. So I think this can actually, in the blink of an eye, her hand was severed from the arm. And then I think we would make this its own thing. The distant dragonborn returned his cleaver to an idle stance after slashing her right hand off and allowing her to scream. The distant dragonborn returned his cleaver to an idle stance after slashing her right hand off and allowing her to scream. While she bent in agony, clutching the child, he merely stared with his trench coat now behind. So, okay, wait, show you. She has a child? Okay, so he's the one with his trench coat now behind. Okay. Clutching the child. I was like, I would say here. We didn't know that she held something. Let's make sure to set this up. Was unaware she was holding a child. Let's foreshadow this. Foreshadow that she is holding something when she is first introduced. Now you see this is a little bit more on the developmental end. He merely stared with his trench coat now behind. The woman stared at the dragonborn, and then we have a repeating of stare, which should be changed, but we're not going to focus on the grammar of it all. The woman stared at the dragonborn. A massive tattoo or mark of sorts covered almost half his body, its edges curving and twisting as if to represent a black flame. This is cool. Oh, wow. That tattoo is super cool. A massive tattoo or mark. Yeah, so I would put the tattoo is actually super cool. I like that. Murder, she cried. Her voice stopped by a sudden zipping streak across the air as the Draconic made a second slash with his weapon, slicing both her and the newborn in half at a slight angle, forehead to hip. Rainfall didn't stop. The blade returned to its idle position, hanging by the Dragonborn's side, the runes slowly diminishing their glow. Okay. Let's go. Does the body collapse to the ground, or do the bodies? The blade returned to its idle position, hanging by the Dragonborn's side, the runes slowly diminishing their glow as the phrase faded back and bled into the metal. All right, so the Dragonborn has a tattoo on their body. Interesting. So the Dragonborn has a tattoo on their body. She's crying in response, and then there are hanging by the dragons. The blade returned to its idle position, hanging by the runes slowly diminishing their glow as the phrase faded back and blended into the metal. Okay, so basically there's runes on the blade. Okay, so basically the blade has runes. The blade returns to its idle position, hanging by the Dragonborn's side. The runes. And I think this is a good example. Let's make this. The runes, the blades runes, because I think I was a little confused where the blades were at. So I would put the blades runes slowly. I don't think we need slowly diminished their glow as the phrase faded back and blended into the metal. So this is what we're saying, but then we're also describing what it stands for. So I would put Health Dan, and then do it apart in Draconic. He murmured. I would just make that a phrase, or I just make that dialogue. Wow, that's dark. I mean, yeah, this is dark fantasy. Okay, so he basically went to go eat her. Oh man. I mean, I guess whatever draconic is, predator and prey right here. Wow. That is cool. Actually, from a story perspective, that's actually really, really cool. And then we're pulling back out to the narrator. This is fine. All right, so I'm gonna step away from this piece here. I'll give you my overall subjective opinion on it. But let's see, what did all y'all think? Like clearly, I get into the mode when I start working editing something. So, what did y'all think of that piece? It looks like were you guys agreeing with some of my edits just implied? So maybe there's a better word like hunt you. Hey, what's up, Madeline? I saw you popped in a while back. As the thunder roared, I liked mast. Oh, that would actually be better. I liked ticked and roared. I like switching the words ticked and poured. The rain ticked and poured. A clap of thunder is better. I'll do better on paying attention to the chat on the next editing session. Yeah, I know. Especially since she's not the MC, it doesn't really sound like it matters. Y'all are cracking me up. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so a lot of your guys' recommendations were really good. So I would recommend to our author Frontier, I'd recommend definitely check out the comments as well for some feedback. So definitely check out the comments as well. Essentially, what I would tell the author. So usually of a piece before I even went on to do a normal edit, I would tell the author, Frontier, you need a developmental edit for this. I would say focus on taking it through an alpha beta read first. Get feedback from your readers. I think right now there's the overarching story, the overarching narrative, kind of suffers from a combination of run-on sentences, and my guess is probably bits of head hopping. But those things can be fixed in line editing. Yeah. So I feel like I gave you a taste of the line editing portion of it, tried to improve that for you. But overall, I think I'd need to read through the story and actually fix the developmental side because I'm not sure. I think Courtney, you had a good point. You had mentioned you're wondering if the story is starting at the right place. My gut tells me I'm wondering if it's starting at the right place as well. But it's basically the intent to show that this draconic is or this the dragonborn is basically killing a woman and eating her. Right? We didn't know what was going to happen, but that's kind of gruesome. It's kind of a cool gruesome setup. It could just be the way the style is set. So awesome. Thanks. Draconic. Frontier, thanks so much for submitting that, my friend. All right, and we are going to hop straight into the next one. I was like, oh, I spent way too long on that one. As y'all can see, I get into the editing process and then my mind just goes into it. So let's hop into the next one. Let's do it. And once again, if you're just hopping into the stream, welcome to Story Edit Now. This is our live stream where I'm doing free editing for the community. So if you're wanting a piece of your story to be edited, submit now. Absolutely submit now. Submission link is down in the YouTube description. I shall also drop it again when I can find the submission link. All right, we're going to drop it down here. Free editing submission link. All right, perfect. So just drop that down in the chat. If for anybody who wants to submit their story, once again, Frontier, thank you so much for submitting that. That was so awesome of you. I feel like anytime that we can help others with our stories, that's such a great progress. And it sounds like you know what the story needs because you had recognized that it hadn't gone through an alpha beta reading. So it sounds like you're going on the right track for where the story is at this part of the developmental process. So really great work on that part, Frontier. All right. So let's get on to it. Let's hop into the next one. I will save that and we'll make sure to send it. All right. We're just going to save that one right there. And then we're going to move right along to our next one. And by the way, if you're enjoying the stream, follow or subscribe. We're here every day with the WriteNow community, 750 consecutive streams and counting. If you're wanting feedback from a consistent writing community, or you're just wanting to help keep yourself accountable, or you're wanting workshops, critique streams, contests, or something in between, then this is the right community for you. Community is the win. It is the one thing that can help you stay motivated. So make sure to tap that follow or subscribe button, and you'll be alerted when I go live. All right, so let's get into the next one. Let's see what we got. So we're going to do this one. We are going to remove Frontier, and we're going to see who we see next. So back to everyone's favorite, the wheel of WriteNow. And let's see whose story we got queued up next. So without further ado, story number 2 is all right, Slim. So it looks like we have Slim is yours. So Slim, let's get into it. All right, let's see what we got for Slim's story. Slim Shadow of Death is a psychological horror. Nice. So we got a thriller. We're hopping to a thriller next. This one's fun. All right, so let's pull that up. We're going to pull up this one, and let me see if it's... Ooh, so we're going much shorter sentence structure. All right, so I'm going to copy this because I want to work in Microsoft Word right now and see what we see. So it looks like we got chapter 1. And let me check and adjust on my end. All right, Slim, so bear with me just one moment and we will get into it. All right, perfect. So it looks like we got this number, that one. All right, here we go. So let's see what we got here. So Slims, this is Shadow of Death, psychological horror thriller. So Shadow of Death follows Matt, a young man cursed to see the dead who silently haunt his every step. When the ghost of his younger brother returns, Matt is pulled into a chilling mystery that reveals a sinister force known as the Hollow Men, something that feeds on grief, guilt, and forgotten memories. It's a novella, and they're unsure what type of editing it needs, but it has been through an alpha beta read, which is cool. Okay, so it has been through an alpha beta read. So they've already gotten feedback for their story, and they're unsure what type of editing it needs. So once again, this could be a developmental, could be a line, or it could be a copy edit. Let's see what we see. And once again, if you're here in the chat, whether you're watching on the replay or live, drop a comment. Let us know what you think of it. Okay. Chapter 1. The first one. Most people never see ghosts. They live their lives thinking death is something that happens and then ends. A breath, a flatline, a funeral. That's it. Now, something I'm going to adjust here for readability. I'm going to spread this out just a little bit, and everything's in bold. So I'm just going to take out the bold. Not necessary. Let's just change this, making it a little bit more readable. We're just going to blow up the text just a little bit for now. Most people never see ghosts. They live their lives thinking death is something that happens and then ends. A breath, a flatline, a funeral. That's it. Not me. I see what comes after. They don't talk. They don't scream or drag chains or flip tables like in horror movies. They just look. Look like they're waiting for something, and they never blink. Some people call that a curse. I call it normal. My name's Matt. I'm 22, live alone, and work the night shift at a gas station where no one asks questions, and the coffee machine hasn't worked since I got hired. The ghosts started showing up when I was 12. One here, one there. A man with burn scars leaning against a mailbox, a little girl with broken legs sitting on a swing set, pushing herself back and forth even though her body was still. I learned pretty quickly that if I ignored them, they'd leave me alone. Usually. But lately, something's changed. They're staying longer, closer, looking harder, and last week one of them followed me home. I saw him first while I was stocking shelves, midnight. Thursday, dead quiet, except for the hum of the fridge and the crackle of fluorescent lights. I turned around, and there he was. Not a customer, not a stranger. My brother, Sam. He looked like he did the day we buried him. 12 years old. Blonde hair matted with blood. Eyes open. Skin pale with that strange gray tint I'll never forget. He was standing at the edge of the chip aisle, staring at me like I hadn't just watched him die 5 years ago. I dropped the box I was holding. It hit the ground with a dull thud, but I didn't move. He didn't either. Sam, I whispered. Okay, so we'll stop there and we'll get into the editing. So I can already tell this piece is in a pretty good spot already. My gut tells me is probably going to be more of a copy edit and a line edit. So I can tell this is probably going to be more of a copy and a minor line edit. It feels like the piece has already gone through some revisionary work, and or the author has some either writing skill or they've taken it through a number of revisions already. Once again, right now the piece feels pretty readable. So like my gut just tells me that this probably isn't necessary for a developmental edit. Even a line edit, it's a little iffy because a lot of what they have here sounds good from an initial gut perspective. What do you think? So you listened to that one as well. How do you think the opening of that sounds? Do you feel like you were able to understand what was going on? I saw what you said, Mass. You liked how the opening line was. It felt pretty easy to follow along. So let's go through it. And we'll go to our track changes. Most people never see ghosts. This is a great opening line. Most people never see ghosts. They live their lives thinking death is something that happens and then ends. A breath, a flatline, a funeral. That's it. I like that because this is already giving our personality for our POV. Now, of course, we have sentence fragments here, but I think this is once again a very great example of using rule of threes, right? And a sentence fragment. I think this actually works out very well. A breath, a flat line, a funeral, right? Living, dying, post death. I like that. That's it. Not me. I see what comes after. I almost think we should go, but not me. But not me. That's it. But not me. No, you know what I would do? I was like, I think I would get rid of that's it. Like I kind of went back and forth on the that's it bit, but I'm like, I think we can cut down the worriness a little bit. Not me. I see what comes after. They don't talk. They don't scream or drag chairs or flip tables like in horror movies. I would start this off with ghosts. Ghosts don't talk. I know you've already referenced the ghosts, but I think just ease of clarity. Ghosts don't talk. They don't scream or drag chains or flip tables. They don't scream or drag chains. And I think we would let's use a comma here. They don't scream, drag chains, or flip tables like in horror movies. They don't scream, drag chains, or flip tables like in horror movies. They just look. They just look. I like this use of ellipses here. I think that works. Look like they're waiting for something. Uh, they just look. Now, we don't need look back to back here. So I think let's go. I think we can get away with another fragment here. Like they just look. Actually, they just Actually, okay, so I think I would make a recommendation. No, I think the ellipses could work, but I think we can combine these sentences. And let's make this an M dash instead. Let's go M dash. They just look like they're waiting for something. I think this is actually a little bit stronger here. They just look like they're waiting for something. I think I like this M dash a little bit more because we're combining the sentences now. Instead of letting this be as much of a sentence fragment again. They just look like they're waiting for something. And they never blink. Ghosts don't talk. They don't scream, drag chairs, or flip tables like in horror movies. They just look like they're waiting for something. And they never blink. Some people call that a curse. I call it normal. My name's Matt. I'm 22, live alone, and work the night shift at a gas station where no one asks questions and the coffee machine hasn't worked since I got hired. So I can even tell, like this, I would say that if just from a first glance, I would say that this piece is a copy edit with a minor line edit. Like I can just already tell it's copy edit because they're developmentality. Now there could be minor developmental fixes, but even from reading the first couple of pages, the story feels intact. Of course, I would have to read through a full excerpt, and the author themselves, after having received alpha beta reading, would have been told if the story makes sense. So I would then, after going through an excerpt, I would then ask the author, how was the feedback that you got from your alpha beta readers? Did you make adjustments? And I would ask them about that part of the process to understand how well do they understand the developmental side of it. This is interesting, Courtney. You said, I'm a little IDK about the opening line. The story is freaking me out already. Thriller, which is good. So that means it's doing what it's supposed to. But I think that most people never see Ghost is too on the nose for how Slick gets later. Interesting. Because I see because the brother's about to show up, so I could see why you're going there. I think so far I'm good with it because I think the opening sets up the tone of it. And my guess is our main character is probably going to see ghosts throughout the story. Mary, that's an interesting suggestion. I think death is a last breath. I think death is a last breath, a flat line, a funeral. Could be the first line. Then I see what comes after. Yeah, you know what? I could actually see that being a little stronger. I think I agree with you guys. Death is something that happens. Death is a last breath. Death is a last breath, a flat line, a funeral. Then, uh, I guess I'm kind of mixed. I could see it either. I could see that either way, in honesty, because I think I kind of like the opening. You said it sounds a bit trite. You're feeling like the beginning feels like a little bit of an info dump. So let's leave them with a comment here, because I think that's actually a great idea. Mary, I think your recommendation is good. Say, consider revising opening line. Consider revising opening line in first paragraph to not focus on the ghost of it all and instead focus on death. Death is a last breath, a flat line, a funeral. I see what comes after. So I'm going to give that to them as a recommendation because I think that is a really good recommendation, your partner. And you see, right? So there's that subjective difference right there. Like for me, I actually like this opening. I think the ghost bit to me, I think that's interesting. But right, we have a couple of you in the audience, in our community, like, and you guys like, no, it's a little bit too much on the nose. Maybe it could be a little bit too stereotypical. And once again, that's why the beauty of feedback is so important. And recognizing that feedback at times can be subjective. So I think that's really powerful to get multiple perspectives, hence why alpha beta readers are so important. All right, so basically this whole beginning was just to set up the tone. Let's see. So my name's Matt. I'm 22, live alone, and work the night shift at a gas station where no one asks questions and the coffee machine hasn't worked since I got hired. My name's Matt. I'm 22, live alone, and work the night shift. I think I would break this into two. I'm 22 and live alone. I think I would just break this into two sentences since I don't think that's really necessary to have that as a longer one. Let the focus here be on the gas station since I think that's where they're at right now. I work the night shift at a gas station where no one asks questions and the coffee machine hasn't worked since I got hired. Perfect. I know. I think there's something kind of interesting about this because this opening is very dark and then they give us a little bit of humor. I think that's an excellent use of humor for our character. It's nothing crazy. It's a very like minor note, but I think that's this is very great character development right here. So I would put here. I put love this humor, undertone, great contrast to the opening bit. The ghost started showing up when I was 12. I almost wonder if this bit here, most people never see ghosts. I almost wonder if we should focus on death, then Matt, then go to the ghost bit. Yeah, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, and we're just going to move it down here. I think this would make it stronger. And then if we started this off with death, and I mean, like I said, I think this opening tone could go either way. And then we go with Matt, and then we transition to ghosts. This next ghost bit will just be a little stronger. The ghost started showing up when I was 12. One here, one there. A man with burn scars leaning against. Now, once again, like we could go sentence fragments here, but I just don't think the sentence fragments are necessary. Sentence fragments, kind of like with our other parts of language, we want to rely on them when absolutely necessary. I don't think this is necessary for him, so I would say man with burned scars who leaned, who liked to lean. A man with burn scars who liked, uh, who who leaned against a mailbox. Actually, I think I retract that. I think I'm fine with that. So technically, we have two. We have two um, examples here. A man with burn scars who leaned against a mailbox. A little girl with broken legs sitting on a swing set, pushing herself back and forth. A man with burn scars who liked to lean against my mailbox. A little girl with broken legs. A little girl with broken legs sitting on a swing set, pushing herself back and forth even though her body was still. A little girl with broken legs sitting on a swing set, pushing herself back and forth even though her body was still. Interesting. How do we know her legs are broken? Um, mm, Probably not all too important. Little girl with broken legs sitting on a swing set, pushing herself back and forth even though her body was still. Yeah, I agree. That's kind of what I'm trying to think through as well. Pushing herself back and forth, not moving, is a little difficult to visualize. I'd agree with that. I would put here, how do we know the legs are broken? How do we know her legs are broken? It works, but slightly hard to visualize. I think I would also add here, recommend adding a third instance. Now we're basically saying how the character has reacted to them. I learned pretty quickly that if I ignored them, they'd leave me alone. So I would add also how they made him feel originally. How did the character actually, I mean, let's actually give this a bigger context. Let's go, I'm going to highlight this whole bit. How did the ghosts make him feel originally? How did the ghosts make him feel originally as a child? Originally, when they first started showing up. So I'm putting here, how did the ghost make him feel originally when they first started showing up? You can add his feelings after each instance or stick to the overall sentiment. I think either or works. Usually. But lately something's changed. I don't think usually it's necessary. But lately, my question is, are the ellipses necessary here? But lately, something's changed. Could go either way on those ones. But lately, something's changed. They're staying longer, closer, looking harder. I wonder what closer means. They're staying longer. They're staying longer, closer, looking harder. I'm just not sure. So they're staying longer, closer even, like they're looking for something. Closer even, like they're looking for something. And last week, one of them followed me home. Last week, one of them followed me home. I saw him first while I was stocking shelves. I think I would change the way the sentence is framed. I would say at midnight on Thursday. I think I'd go to that because I just don't think the M dash works quite as well. I saw him first while I was talking shelves midnight Thursday, dead quiet except for the hum of the fridge and the crackle of fluorescent lights. To get this more personality, during the graveyard, during Thursday's graveyard shift. During Thursday's graveyard shift, and we're going to take this bit, we're going to adjust the sentence. It was dead quiet, except for during Thursday's graveyard shift, it was dead quiet, except for the hum of the fridge and the crackle of fluorescent lights. I saw him first. I heard something. I heard something while I was stocking shelves, wishing for more. I heard something while I was stocking shelves, wishing for more coffee. I was like, let's add another coffee bit here. I heard something while I was stocking shelves, wishing for more coffee. I turned around and there he was. I turned around and there. I turned around. There he was. I think because I do like the smaller sentence structure here, I turned around. There he was. It kind of adds to a style. I'm trying to stay away from doing longer sentences because the shorter ones actually really do work well for the author's style. I turned around. There he was. Not a customer, not a stranger. My brother, Sam. I like that. I think I'm pretty good with that bit. Yeah, I'm kind of getting that sense as well. I'm a little less standing closer. I got the impression they appear at a distance from him. Now they appear closer to him. Yeah, I can actually agree with that, Courtney. I turned around. There he was. Sam. I turned around and there he was. Actually, so I think this would work better than if I get rid of this. I turned around and there he was. My brother, Sam. He looked like he did the day we buried him. 12 years old. Blonde hair matted with blood. Eyes open. He looked like he did the day we buried him. 12 years old. Blonde hair matted with blood. He looked like he did the day we buried him. 12 years old. Blonde hair matted with blood. Eyes open. Skin pale with that strange gray tint I'll never forget. Skin pale with a strange gray tint that I'll never forget. Yeah, you guys make some interesting points. I think Mary, I wonder if they were always clear, not fuzzy or blurry. I think the author could describe that more if they really wanted to. I think, Courtney, that it's not technically necessary quite yet on how he died. My guess is we're probably going to learn that in the narrative if it's important. And especially because, I mean, the character's brother's death is probably going to be a big impact on the character. Oh. I think by us not knowing, it creates some intrigue. He was standing at the edge of the chip aisle, staring at me like I hadn't just watched him die 5 years ago. So he is 17. So our MC is 17. He was standing at the edge of the chip aisle, staring at me like I hadn't just watched him die 5 years ago. Okay. That. Wow. He was standing at the edge of the chip aisle, staring at me like, oh, yeah, you're right. He did. They did say he was 22. You're right. 12 years ago. You're right. He had said 22 in the very beginning. 22, that means 5 years ago would be he was 17. Yep, so he was 17 when his brother died. He was standing at the edge of the chip aisle, staring at me like I hadn't just watched him die 5 years ago. I dropped the box I was holding. It hit the ground with a dull thud, but I didn't move. I don't think we need the movement right now. I dropped the box I was holding. It hit the ground with a dull thud. I don't think we need either of their movement. Because I think it's clear that he's transfixed. Sam, I whispered. He didn't answer. They never do. That night broke the rules. Ghosts don't follow me. They don't show up looking like people I knew. They sure as hell don't show up after 5 years of silence. But Sam was different. Sam was my first. And now we're going into his background. I was supposed to be watching him. Nothing dramatic, no serial killer. All right, so now we're going to go into the backstory of how the brother died. Okay. I'm going to leave that in the same paragraph. He didn't answer. They never do. That night broke the rules. I don't think we need as much single sentence here. That night broke the rules because ghosts don't follow me. Because ghosts don't follow. That night broke the rules because ghosts don't follow me. They don't show up. They don't show up looking like people I knew. And they sure as hell don't show up after 5 years of silence. And they sure as hell don't show up. Let's go. They don't appear looking like they don't. That night broke the rules because ghosts don't normally follow me. They don't appear. They don't show up looking like people I knew. They don't show up looking like people I knew, and they sure as hell don't show up after 5 years of silence. That night broke the rules because ghosts don't normally follow me. They don't show up looking like people I knew, and they sure as hell don't show up after 5 years of silence. Uh, hmm. Let's see. So something that I want to check, even with the ghost stuff. Yeah, Courtney. So, but you thought a ghost did follow him home. But I thought above. Yeah, I mean, what he was referring to is this story. It's the brother that followed him home. So this is the same story. Hmm. It's because so we started in the present moment, and now he's basically giving us a flashback to the week before. Um, and it's kind of interesting. I mean, technically present moment is he's probably at the gas. Well, actually, we technically don't know where present moment is because we're kind of jumping around in little bits of time. Um, this is kind of an overview. The ghost started showing up when I was 12. One here, one there. A man with broken burn scars. That if I ignore them, they'd leave me alone. All right, so I think what I would do. Okay, so I think so we don't time jump as much because I see what you guys are saying and I actually agree with that. Now that I'm pulling back and I'm reading these different sections, I think, but lately something's changed. So let's stay in the past perfect because we're basically starting from when he was a child. And like, all right, ghosts, blah blah. But then we go back to the present. Because we go back to a present moment thought for such a short period of time, it feels a little jarring. Um, I think I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to make a note right here because I think this is a good. This is a good. This is good info, but stay in the past perfect so we don't confuse the reader with the time jumps. Then we're going to delete this. And I think this is going to clean up that time jump a little bit. So that way we stay in the past. He's describing what happened to him as a kid, and now he's describing last week. Last week I turned around and there he was, my brother Sam. And then once we do the Sam, so this was basically the Sam story. Then we go back to the present. Um, and then we go back to Sam's death. So that night broke the rules because ghosts don't normally follow me. They don't show up looking like people I knew, and they sure as hell don't show up after 5 years of silence. But Sam was different. Sam was my first, and he was the one I couldn't ignore. Sam died on a Tuesday. I was 17, he was 12. And then we're going into the Sam death story, and I was supposed to be watching him. It wasn't anything dramatic. No serial killer, no haunted house, just one stupid mistake. One small second that stretched into a lifetime of blame. He'd been bugging me to go to the river behind our house. Said he just wanted to skip rocks, maybe climb the big log bridge the neighborhood kids use like a dare. I told him no, twice, but he kept begging, and honestly, I was too tired to argue. I said, fine, but stay where I can see you. He didn't. Still remember the way he laughed as he ran ahead, kicking up dirt and twigs, arms stretched out like a bird. Remember blinking and he was gone. I called out nothing. Ran toward the sound of rushing water. The current was fast that day. There'd been rain all week. And then I saw a shoe floating. He must have slipped, tried to cross, hit his head or got caught. I don't know. I never saw him go under. I only saw them pull his body out 30 minutes later. By then, it was too late. Okay, so I know I already know how to fix this. So what I did was I was just scanning ahead. Normally I would keep going through the piece at my own pace, but in the interest of the live stream, I kind of wanted to scan and see what's going to happen with it. So basically, the present moment is about a week after the Sam shows up incident. I think it would be stronger if the present moment is Sam appearing. Um, and it's not a, I wouldn't even say that's a big developmental change at all. Um, because we're basically going into the Sam moment for it looks like a majority of the chapter. I almost ask why the present moment is a week ahead in time. So then when I pull back and I start reading on this opening bit, as I've reworked it a little bit, I'm curious to see how it sounds. Most people never see ghosts. They live their lives thinking death is something that happens and then ends. A breath, a flatline, a funeral. And let's see if we focus on what if we did Mary's original last line. Death is a last breath, a flatline, then a funeral. I see what comes after. My name's Matt. I'm 22 and live alone. I work the night shift at a gas station where no one asks questions, and the coffee machine hasn't worked since I got hired. Actually, I'm thinking now that I read it, Mary's opening is better because we're about to transition to ghosts next, anyways. Um, Ghosts don't talk. Ghosts don't talk. They don't scream. Most people never see ghosts. And I think I would go here. Yep. All right. I know exactly what I'm going to do. They live their lives thinking death is something. They live their lives thinking death is something that happens, then ends. No, I think I still like it better like this. Most people never see ghosts. They live their lives thinking death is something that happens and then ends. A breath, a flatline, a funeral. Not me. I see what comes after. My name's Matt. I'm 22 and live alone. I work the night shift at a gas station where no one asks questions and the coffee machine hasn't worked since I got hired. Most people never see ghosts. Ghosts don't talk. They don't scream, drag chains, or flip tables like in horror movies. They just look like they're waiting for something, and they never blink. Some people call that a curse. I call it normal. The ghosts started showing up when I was 12. One here, one there. A man with burn scars who liked to lean against my mailbox. A little girl with broken legs sitting on a swing set, pushing herself back and forth, even though her body was still. Uh, even though her body was still. But lately, something's changed. Last week, one of them followed me home. During Thursday's graveyard shift, it was dead quiet, except for the hum of the fridge and the crackle of fluorescent lights. I heard something while I was stocking shelves, wishing for more coffee. I turned around and there he was, my brother, Sam. He looked like he did the day we buried him. 12 years old, blonde hair matted with blood, eyes open, skin pale with a strange gray tint that I'll never forget. He was standing at the edge of the chip aisle, staring at me like I hadn't just watched him die 5 years ago. I dropped the box I was holding. It hit the ground with a dull thud. I don't even think we need this, but I dropped the box I was holding. Sam, I whispered. He didn't answer. They never do. That night broke the rules because ghosts didn't normally follow me. They don't show up looking like people I knew, and they sure as hell don't show up after 5 years of silence. But Sam was different. Sam was my first, and he was the one I couldn't ignore. Sam died on a Tuesday. I was 17. Yeah, so I think as I'm reading it now, I think that's a little smoother. I think there's still more adjustments that I would want to make. I think the biggest thing I would ask the author is, does it need to start? Does it need to start a week in the future? I think that's one of the biggest things that come to mind. I'm like, what is the intent behind having the present moment start a week later? It feels like because so much of this first chapter is happening about a week ago. I'm like, let's just start the present moment when he sees Sam for the first time. I think that would be much stronger. Um, Initially, my initial gut instinct was this piece was ready for like a copy edit, but after kind of looking back at it and kind of pulling more of the lines away, I would say it's definitely calling for a line edit. It's 100% a line edit. Developmental, I overall developmentally, I think the story does still feel sound. I feel like it's really needs to focus on the style of it all and improving style, helping us get closer to the characters, helping us feel more strongly about the character. It seems the first real moment, the first two moments that I felt any type of emotional thing was the coffee machine moment, and then once we start learning about how the brother died, that he's the one at fault, I was like, okay, I started feeling a little something. But I think we can you can pull us even more into our MC of like, how did he feel when he was this child dealing with ghosts? And that could pull us to feel like we want to care more about our MC. So awesome. That's what I got for that one. So once again, thank you so much for that. Let's see, our Slim. So Slim, thank you so much for submitting that. That was definitely a fun little piece. Definitely a fun little read. And yeah, absolutely love that. So once again, that was really, really cool. And I really appreciate you submitting that piece up as an editing piece. We'll say that shadow of death, live stream edit. Yeah, I was definitely a fan of that story. What did you think of it overall? I feel like I was able to get some really good feedback from each of you guys. You guys gave some really great recommendations for some style and line adjustments. So really, really great job. And Slim, great job. I think you do have a unique sense of style, and you can continue to pull us into how we feel about, do we feel strongly enough for the characters? So, but I can definitely tell you're able to piece a story together. So really great work. Um, All right, awesome. Let's continue on. So, once again, if you're just hopping into the stream or you're watching this on the replay, welcome to Story Edit Now, where we're doing live editing of your story. So, make sure to submit if you're wanting feedback on your story. The submission link is down in the YouTube description. I was like, we'll throw up the welcome to Story Edit Now. So definitely. And then also, if you're wanting more in-depth feedback, you're like, hey, you know what? I need an editor and I need help. You can reach out to me for a consultation and we can talk about what type of editing your story needs. I was like, I don't think I like that one. Yep. Almost. I'm like deciding, there we go. So if you're wanting feedback, if you're needing editing for your story, if you're needing an alpha read, maybe like, hey, I'm not ready for the editing yet, or you're just needing help along the writing journey, I offer all of the writing services. So if you're needing help, go fill out this form. That'll give me the details that I need so we can set up a free consultation, a free meeting, and kind of talk about, are we going to be a good fit for each other? It is linked down in the YouTube description, but I'll throw it down in the chat as well. So if you're looking for a writing coach or an editor, I've got you covered. Now, I'll usually base the original price against industry standard pricing, and then I give huge discounts because I know writing a book is expensive. So definitely reach out if you're needing help with editing. All right, and we're going to get right into it. So let's hop into the next bit. I want to hear your stories, and I think we got, it looks like we got another submission here. Perfect. Definitely. So if you're wanting feedback, let's get you into the wheel of right now. Let's queue up, see which story is going to be next. Let's see, we got Slim, and it looks like we got another submission from Bob. Excellent. So we got Bob. Awesome. And it looks like we got this. So we're going to hop into our next story. Let's see which one gets edited. And let's spin the wheel. Let's see, we got that one. All right, so we got our choice here. So 6, let's spin the wheel and let's see just who's going to be up for the next editing spot. Without further ado, it's time to write now. Wow. Calvin, really great work, by the way. I was like, I feel like of all the writers in the community, anytime we do the wheel, it literally never picks Calvin. It's actually kind of funny. Oh my goodness, that's actually really, really funny. All right, Colin, let me pull up your story. Let's see. Calvin, that might be the first time I've had you win on a wheel of right now. All right, so let me queue up your story. Let's see what I got. And I think this is for a new story. This is a short story that Calvin's working on. So let me set up the banner, and then we're going to get right into it. Looks like we got a science fiction. Perfect. And of course, I'm going to switch over to Microsoft Word because I like my Microsoft Word more. All right, and let's do it. And we're going to go Arial, make it bigger, and let's. Perfect. All right, so let's see what we see here. Without further ado, now editing. Techno Mage, a science fiction by Calvin. Let's see, this is a short story. Calvin knows that it needs a developmental edit. Let's see, Gerard investigates his best friend and uncovers a conspiracy at the heart of the Techno Mage Guild. Ooh, Techno Mage Guild. That's very interesting. Combining Techno Mage. It's actually kind of cool, the mage element of it for science fiction, because mages are traditionally fantasy. I'm intrigued, actually. That's an intriguing concept. So let's see what we see. On a fringe world of the Roman Star Empire, Gerard approached his sleek spacecraft. His features were hidden by the black hooded robe he wore. As he came to the craft, he waved his hand and the boarding ramp lowered. He walked up the ramp, his hand heavy with a purse full of credits, a payment for a job on this backwater planet for a powerful governor desperate to save his daughter. When he was on the craft, he waved his hand again, and the ramp raised. Once the ramp was raised and the craft secured, Gerard went to the front of the ship. With every step he took, the ship came to life as it responded to his presence. Once he was in the cockpit, the controls lit up and the nav computer warmed up, waiting to be told where to go. He put his hand on the console, and coordinates appeared on the display. The hull plating under his feet trembled slightly as the engines roared to life. He felt a wave of vertigo wash over him for a second, as the ship took off, heading towards space to settle into orbit, where he decided where to go next. Once the ship was where he wanted it to be, Gerard headed to his personal terminal. He waved his hand, transmitting passwords to unlock it. He went into his messages to see if there were any new requests from any of his contacts who were all over the sector. There were a few jobs that looked interesting, but then a message appeared in his inbox with the subject line reading urgent. He looked at the address and saw that it was from his master, J. Albinus, at the Technomage Guild on the planet Tech. Curious, he opened the message and read it. Gerard, you must return home. Erin is dead. Gerard read the words several times, each time hoping that what was written wasn't true. Erin, his best friend, his only friend, was dead. He couldn't think. He couldn't breathe. He knew he had to calm down before he lost control, but he couldn't, and in truth, he didn't want to. His anger rose in his chest, and like a volcano, it erupted in rage. The organic chip at the base of his brainstem responded. It drew power from the Katerian crystal in the harness. The power from the crystal surged through his gauntlets as it activated the lightning circuits in them. Electricity danced around his body in a violent storm until he screamed and blasted the lightning in all directions, hitting the bulkhead of the ship that absorbed the power. Gerard fell to his knees, tears streaming face. He had cried more in the last few minutes than he had in the last 10 years. He sniffled one more time, then his face hardened with cold resolve. Getting back to his feet, he headed into the cockpit and put his hand on the computer as he transmitted the coordinates to Tech. It was time to return home. Okay. And then we're basically going into this. All right. So looking at this piece, I could definitely tell it, of course, needs a line edit. Um, it looks like, I think, Calvin, you requested a developmental edit, so you know the story needs to be looked at first. So I think normally what I would do for this type of piece is I would offer to the author I could go through and do it as just a developmental edit. And instead of we would focus on characters, plot line, and readability. Or if they want, because a lot of authors were trying to cut down the costs because not every author can afford all three different types of edits. I'd be like, would you like me to do a developmental edit cross with a line edit? Yes, some parts are going to be changed in the developmental side of it, but the line edit is going to be able to save them time and money in the long term in terms of having to pay for multiple edits. The biggest risk that we take when doing two types of edits is, okay, what if things are changed, or what if things are edited, but then they don't use it? That's kind of a risk. So that's usually what I would recommend for authors. I know I've worked with Calvin with you before, so I already once I've worked with an author before, I already have a sense of their style, so I already know what to expect. I just already know what to expect. And see what are y'all thinking so far from just hearing this from an initial reading. Hmm. Oh my goodness, Calvin, is this what master? Have we figured out Gerald is a secret Jedi? We're calling them techno mages, but I think they're just Jedi's. It's actually a cool idea. Okay. So I think let's take this through. Let's go through developmental and align edit because I think that's what's going to serve this piece best right now. I don't think a copy edit, so I'm not going to be as concerned with the grammar of it all. But if there's easy things to catch from a grammar perspective, we'll fix it. On a fringe world of the Roman Star Empire, Gerard approached his sleek spacecraft. On a fringe world of the Roman Star Empire, Gerard approached his sleek spacecraft. Um, his features were hidden by the black hooded robe he wore as he came to the craft. We already said that he was approaching the craft, so that's unnecessary. His features were hidden by the black hooded robe. Draped. Oh, wait. Let's go into track changes. His features were hidden by the black hooded robe draped over his draped over his broad, draped over him. His features were hidden by the black hooded robe draped over him. He waved his hand and the boarding ramp lowered. On a fringe world of the Roman Star Empire, Gerard approached his sleek spacecraft. His features were hidden by the black hooded robe, by the black hood of his robe. by the black hooded robe draped over him. His features were hidden by the black hood of his robe. His features were hidden by the black hood of his robe. He waved his hand, and the boarding ramp lowered. Waving his hand, the boarding ramp lowered. He walked up the ramp, his hand heavy with a purse full of credits. He walked up the ramp, his hand heavy with a purse full of credits. A payment for a job on this backwater planet for a powerful governor desperate to save his daughter. He walked up the ramp, his hand heavy with a purse full of credits. A payment for a job on this backwater planet for a powerful governor desperate to save his daughter. Let's make this. Waving his hand, the board ramp lowered, and he walked up it. We're making this two separate things. That way this sentence can focus on the purse. His hand heavy. His hand was heavy with a purse full of credits. A payment for a job on this his hand was heavy with a purse full of credits. A payment for a job on this backwater planet for a powerful governor desperate to save his daughter. This is just like, this just feels a little bit extra for this sentence. His hand was heavy with a purse full of credits. A payment for a job on this backwater planet. His hand was heavy with a purse full of credits. A payment for a job on this backwater planet for a powerful governor desperate to save his daughter. Okay. I feel like this can be fixed. I just feel like this can be better, but I'm going to come back to it. When he was on the craft, he waved his hand again and the ramp raised. When he was aboard, let's say aboard, he waved his hand again and the ramp raised behind him. Aboard, he waved his hand again and the ramp raised behind him. Well, since we've already said that, once the craft was secured, Gerard went to the front of the ship. Gerard, once the craft was secured, Gerard went to the front of the ship. Each step bringing the ship to life, as if it responded, as if it were responding to his presence. Once the craft was secured, Gerard went to the front of the ship, each step bringing the ship to life, as if responding to his presence. Once he was in the cockpit, the controls lit up, and the nav computer warmed up, waiting to be told where to go. go at the cockpit. The controls lit up, and the nav computer warmed up, waiting to be told where to go. At the cockpit, the controls lit up, and the nav computer came online, waiting to be told where to go. At the cockpit, the controls lit up, and the nav computer came online, waiting to be told where to go. At the cockpit, the controls lit up, and the nav computer came online, waiting to be told where to go. I don't like that the and the is right here. At the cockpit, a motherboard full of controls, a motherboard a motherboard speckled with control full of controls. At the cockpit, a motherboard full of controls lit up. At the cockpit, a mother, and of course, like I would have to put here, like I don't know if mother, that might not even be the right terminology. Then I would Google, can a ship's cockpit, what is the control dashboard in a ship's cockpit? So I would Google, what is the control dashboard in a ship's cockpit called? It's the helm or the console? Oh, the console. At the cockpit, okay, so at the cockpit, a console, so motherboard, so a console full of controls, a console lit up. And then if we want to like give it more imagery, we could do lights or controls, but I think we could do that. At the cockpit, a console lit up, and the nav computer came online, waiting to be told where to go. His hand hovered over a blinking control. And of course, depending on what it looks like, his hand hovered over a blinking light. His hand hovered over a blinking light, and coordinates appeared on the dashboard. The hull plating under his feet trembled slightly. We don't need slightly because trembled is already suggested. The hull plating under his feet trembled as the engines. The hull plate under his feet trembled. The hull plate under his feet trembled as the engines roared to life. That's fun. He felt a wave of vertigo wash over him for a second. So writers do this a lot. He felt. This is a good takeaway. There are times where you can use like a character feels a way. Like there are times where it makes sense, but generally you want to ask yourself, can you get rid of this? Can you get rid of bits like this and still keep the integrity of the sentence? We can. So we would say, let's say if we can do this, a wave of vertigo washed over him for a second. And I was like, let's just go, a wave of vertigo washed over him as the ship took off, heading towards the space. A wave of vertigo washed over him as the ship departed for space to settle into orbit. A wave of vertigo washed over him as the ship departed for space. As the ship took off, heading towards space to settle into orbit, where he decided where to go next. So basically, he's just setting out on his journey. A wave of vertigo washed over him as the ship departed for space. A wave of vertigo washed over him as the ship departed for space. The ship departed for space before settling into orbit, waiting on his next command. Before settling in orbit, waiting on his next command. A wave of vertigo washed over him a wave of vertigo washed over him as the ship departed for space before settling in orbit, waiting on his next command, and waited on his next command. A wave of vertigo washed over him, but he steadied himself. Let's give him a little bit of action here. Let's give a slight personality. A wave of vertigo washed over him, but he steadied himself with a clench of the fist, with a fist clenching. The ship departed by clenching his fist. A wave of vertigo washed over him, but he steadied himself by clenching his fist. The ship departed for space before settling in orbit, and the ship departed for space before settling in orbit. Let's go. It waited. It waited on his next command. I think that's a little cleaner. A wave of vertigo washed over him, but he steadied himself by clenching his fist. The ship departed for space before settling in orbit. It waited on his next command. I think that's a little stronger. Once the ship was where he wanted it to be, wouldn't he be used to it with vertigo? I mean, technically, yes. So what's interesting is Mary and Courtney, you guys both have really good points. But I think because we're still so early on for the credits line, because we're just don't understand credits, even for his vertigo, we don't understand enough of his character yet to say either way. The vertigo could be something else about his character, like in relation to a disease, or it could just be a little momentary thing. So, I mean, I think both them we would need to read more to understand. Once the ship was en route, Gerard headed to his personal terminal. Once the ship was en route, Gerard headed to his personal terminal. Waving a hand. Let's go. Waving a hand. Waving a hand to unlock it with the correct password. Waving a hand to unlock it with the correct password. Once the ship was en route, Gerard headed to his personal terminal, waving a hand to unlock it with the correct password. I think I still like transmitted, which transmitted his personal password. Once the ship was en route, Gerard headed to his personal terminal, waving a hand to unlock it, which transmitted his personal password. He went into his messages to see if there were any new requests from any of his contacts who were all over the sector. He wondered if there were any new requests from any. He wondered if there were new requests from any of his contacts across the sector. He wondered if there were new requests from. He wondered whether there were any new requests. Yeah, I wonder it's fun. He wondered whether there were new requests from his contacts, from any of his contacts. Let's go from his contacts across the sector. He wondered whether there were new requests from his contacts across the sector. Mm. Let's go. A few jobs looked interesting. I think we could go here for another paragraph. Suddenly a message appeared in his inbox with the subject line, reading urgent. He looked at the address. So once again, this is another example of he looked. So usually with writers, once I see things that are repeated commonly, like in the first piece we read today, we saw cases of head hopping and setting our main POV. The second piece we read, there was a case of present versus past moment with our main character. And then in this one, we're using just kind of like extra words to kind of orient the character. So then I would just call it things like this. I would just call this out. New comment. You have a tendency to set up how a character sees, feels, or does something. Just have them do the thing. Extra words unnecessary. So we'd put the address was from his master, J. Alvinus, at the Technomage Guild on the planet Tech. The address, it was addressed from his master. It was addressed by his master. From his master. Sure. By shorter. It was addressed by his master, J. Albinus, at the Technomage Guild on the planet Tech. No, I liked from better. It was addressed from his master, J. Albinus, at the Technomage Guild on the planet Tech. Curious. What's our main character? Curious. He opened the message and read it. Curious. Gerard opened the message and read it. Now this would actually be a curious. Gerard opened the message and read it. This would be a good moment where we could give some more character. We could add interiority or an action to give us more insight into our MC's disposition and help the reader better understand who he is. This is a good so usually if there's things that I'll see, I'll try to point out moments where this would be a good moment where we could do like a show versus tell opportunity before he opens the message. Like, how does he feel about this? Clearly he's opening the message, so it's clearly like he needs to check it out, but how does he feel about his master, J. Albinus? Does he like the guy? Does he hate the guy? Is he like a Jedi warrior and this is like his Yoda? Or is he like Sith? Is he like a Sith and he like wants to secretly kill this dude? We don't have enough information yet to tell whether Gerard's good or bad. Other than that, it seems like he's a bounty hunter. Gerard, you must return home, Uranus. Gerard. Now granted, I don't know, we don't know anything about J. Albinus, but I think as a leader, like I would say let's make it more direct. I would say return home. I would just go like this. This is a little bit more direct. Granted, I don't know anything about Jay's personality. So I would say without knowing anything about Jay's character yet, a direct message with less words seems builds tension a little stronger. Mary, that was a good moment. You called out to the vertigo a little earlier. Closing the eyes could be a good action as well. I could see that. J. Albinus. Interesting. Gerard read the word several times, each time hoping that what was written wasn't true. So what I'm doing is I'm scanning through the chapter real fast, and we'll just turn off. We don't need. I'll just turn off Grammarly for a second. Truth, you didn't want to. Well, we do have a really cool. This is a really cool thing that's about to happen with his power. The fellow whose knees, tears streaming his face. He cried more in the last 2 minutes than he had in the last 10 years. Resolve. It's time to return. So I would say even just this first beat, developmentally, the first beat is fine. Getting back to his feet, he hand on the cockpit and put his hand on the computer. A normal trip. Check almost. What I'm doing is I'm just kind of scanning ahead to see if there's developmental opportunities. around until I was able to get to the only large thing. All right, so I was just scanning ahead. I mean, I think from this first as an opening, I think I really like this as an opening. It's basically as I like pull back, he's basically finishing wrapping up this job. Is being called back home by his master. And then we're about to see his response to Aaron, who is his best friend, who's now dead, which is creating a very early. It's like a very very early inciting incident, which is interesting. I mean, it's way too early. I mean, actually, I think this was a short story. Pretty sure Calvin said you said this was a short story, which means 10,000 words. Yeah, so if this is a short story, that's definitely an inciting incident then. I was thinking a novel for some reason. So as a short story, that's definitely the inciting incident. Um, so then the journey is probably him having to go through a series of obstacles through this mage techno guild and understand what actually happened to his friend. I'm sure he's probably going to be let off the trail early on, and then something crazy is going to happen. Um, but I'm intrigued so far. I don't think from what we've touched on so far, I have no developmental problems. As you guys can see, I did a lot of line editing that time because once again, like the story developmentally might be in a good place or it might need some opportunities. And once again, that's always the interesting with developmental editing is you generally have to read through at least a chapter, two chapters, through portions of it to really see if developmentally the story works from a chapter by chapter or a story beat by story beat section. But so far, everything's making sense. We've also made it more readable as well. So if we start here from the beginning, on a fringe world of the Roman Star Empire, Gerard approached his sleek spacecraft. His features were hidden by the black hood of his robe. Waving his hand, the board ramp lowered, and he walked up it. His hand was heavy with a purse full of credits. Oh, I don't like that we have hand here. I don't like that, but all right. His hand was heavy with a purse full of credits, a payment for a job on the backwater planet for a powerful governor desperate to save his daughter. Aboard, he waved his hand again, and the ramp raised behind him. Aboard, he waved, and the ramp raised behind him. Once the craft was secured, Gerard went to the front of the ship, each step bringing the. Once the craft was secured, Gerard went to the front of the ship, each step bringing. Um, If the ship has a name, I think let's give the ship a name. Gerard went to the front of the ship, each step bringing the ship to life as if responding to his presence. At the cockpit, the console lit up and the nav computer came online, waiting to be told where to go. His hand hovered over a blinking light, and coordinates appeared on the display. The hull plating under his feet trembled as the engines roared to life. A wave of vertigo washed over him, but he steadied himself by clenching his fist. He could do it by closing his eyes, but he steadied himself by closing his eyes. I think that actually works too. By closing his eyes. The ship departed for space before settling in orbit. It waited on his next command. Once the ship was en route, Gerard headed to his personal terminal, waving a hand to unlock it. We don't need a hand. Waving to unlock it, which transmitted his password. He wondered whether there were new requests from his contacts across the sector. A few jobs looked interesting. Suddenly, a message appeared in his inbox with a subject line reading, Urgent. It was addressed from his master, J. Albinus, at the Techno Mage Guild on the planet Tech. Curious, Gerard opened the message and read it. Return home. Iran is dead. So that's the first bit of this of the story that we got through. Um, yeah, I think that's all that I got for you right now, Calvin. You can kind of see the style that we're going through, especially with the mix of line editing in there. So I feel pretty good about that. Once again, I feel like that needs mostly a line edit more than anything. Because it's a short story, my gut tells me that developmentally the story is probably going to be in a good place. Um, yeah, developmentally my gut tells me the story is probably going to be in a good place. But I wouldn't know until I read through more of it. So awesome. Thank you so much for submitting, my friends. I know so many of you wanted the Story Edit Right Now stream to come back. I'm glad I was able to get through a couple stories today. And once again, let me know if I continue to repeat this format, what do you like about it? What has helped you out the most? And if there are any things you would recommend tweaking or suggesting, come join us in the Discord, drop feedback. Today is Saturday, which means Chatso will probably be doing their chat right later in the Discord. So if you're wanting to get some writing in, come join us. Come get some writing in with us. It's a casual co-working session. The Discord is linked down in the YouTube description. So come join. Discord is always fun, especially if you need to get some writing in on your storytelling today. I'll drop the Discord link. Let's see. Let's drop a Discord invite into the chat for anybody who wants to come join. Let's see. Invite now. I know I got it. Discord. Here we go. So here's the Discord invite. Anybody who wants to come join us on the Discord, it looks like ChatSoul is going. ChatSoul is live now. If you want to come join for a casual co-working session, you can have your camera on. You can have it off. It's just a really great way if you want to get some work done with other writers. So thank you so much for joining me. The editing stream is good. Give us feedback in the Discord. Let us know what you liked. And I'll be back tomorrow for another daily writing stream. Probably in the early afternoon is what I'm feeling like, but we'll play it by ear. And that's all that I got. Most importantly, if you like the stream, tap that like button. Help us show the algorithm that writing streams are cool. All right, my friends, I always love going through these editing things. And we're kind of adjusting and learning as we do it each time, and I figure out what's the right format. I mean, that time we spent about, 45 minutes or so on average per story. So we'll see what works as we continue on with this format. Awesome. Thanks so much for joining. But unfortunately, that brings us to the end of the stream. Don't forget, words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm Kauffman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers. Stories are forever. I'm Kauffman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers. It's time to write
now.
Sorry.
Right now, not right now, but right now. Read now, right now. Is that